Her eyes were like fire, but they didn't burn. They froze me in place, like she could see every dark thing I'd ever done. Every secret. Every fear. That's when I realized there was no running from her. And there never had been. If I could take it all back, I would. I would have stayed home that night. I would have told Kalu no. But it's too late for that now. Kalu was my older brother, 3 years older, and he had a way of making me feel like I was always playing catch-up. He was bold, strong, and fearless. People liked him, respected him. Me? I was quieter, softer. Too soft, Kalu used to say, laughing as he pushed my shoulder. That night started like so many others. We were sitting outside our hut, listening to the crackling fire and the hum of insects in the distance. The air was heavy, the kind of heat that clings to your skin. Kalu was restless. He always got like that at night, like the quiet made him itch. "Let's do something," he said, his voice cutting through the stillness. "Like what?" I asked. He grinned, the kind of grin that always got us into trouble. "Let's go hunting. Just a quick trip into the forest." I hesitated. "You know we're not supposed to go in there at night." Kalu rolled his eyes. "You believe those old stories? Nkele this, Nkele that. It's just a bunch of nonsense to keep kids from wandering off. Come on, Tund, don't be a coward." I hated when he called me that. I hated how it made me feel small. So I grabbed my bow and followed him, even though my gut told me not to. The forest was different at night. In the daytime, it was alive, birds chirping, leaves rustling, the occasional monkey swinging through the trees. But at night, it was dead. No sound, no movement, just darkness pressing in from all sides. The lantern Kalu carried cast long, flickering shadows that made the trees look like they were leaning toward us. "See," Kalu said, his voice too loud in the quiet. "Nothing to be afraid of." I didn't answer. My stomach was tight, my eyes darting at every shadow. We walked deeper, our footsteps crunching leaves and snapping twigs. After about an hour, we found a rabbit caught in a trap. It wasn't ours, but Kalu didn't care. "Finders keepers," he said, reaching down to grab it. That's when the air changed. It got colder, sharper. The kind of cold that sinks into your bones and makes it hard to breathe. The lantern flickered, and for the first time, Kalu looked uneasy. "Maybe we should leave it," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. But Kalu shook his head. "Don't be stupid. It's just a rabbit." He yanked it out of the trap, and that's when we heard it. A laugh, soft at first, like it was far away. Then it grew louder, echoing all around us, until it felt like it was right next to my ear. "Kalu," I whispered, but he wasn't listening. He was staring into the trees, his eyes wide. "Do you see that?" he asked, his voice trembling. At first, I didn't see anything. Then she stepped into view. She was tall, impossibly tall, her head brushing the lowest branches. Her skin was pale gray, like ash, and her hair floated around her head like black smoke. Her eyes glowed red, burning like embers in the dark. But it was her smile that made my blood run cold. Too wide, too sharp, like it didn't belong on a human face. "You took what was mine," she said, her voice soft but heavy, like thunder rolling in the distance. Kalu dropped the rabbit, his hands shaking. "We didn't know," he stammered. "We'll leave. We'll leave right now." Her smile grew wider. "Hunger doesn't forgive. Hunger doesn't forget." The wind picked up, circling us, whipping at our clothes and hair. The trees groaned, their branches twisting like they were alive. Kalu grabbed my arm. "Run!" he shouted. We bolted, crashing through the underbrush, the lantern swinging wildly in Kalu's hand. But no matter how far we ran, the wind stayed with us, howling in our ears, pulling at our clothes. Then it stopped. Everything went silent. We were in a clearing we didn't recognize, surrounded by twisted, gnarled trees. The lantern flickered and went out, plunging us into darkness. "Kalu," I whispered, my voice shaking. Then she was there, stepping out of the shadows like she'd been there the whole time. "You cannot outrun me," she said. She raised one long, bony finger and pointed at Kalu. He froze mid-step, his eyes wide with terror. I tried to pull him, to move him, but it was like he was made of stone. "You have a choice," she said, turning her burning eyes on me. One of you stays. The other leaves. I looked at Kalu, tears streaming down my face. Take me, I said, my voice breaking. Don't take him. But Kalu screamed, his voice raw. Run, Tund. Go. I hesitated, but the look in his eyes, fear and desperation, made my legs move. I turned and ran, not looking back, even as his screams filled the air. I don't know how I found my way out of the forest. When I stumbled back into the village, I was covered in cuts and scratches, my clothes torn, my chest heaving. They found Kalu's body days later, lying in the clearing. He was nothing but skin stretched over bones, his face frozen in a silent scream. The elders didn't say much when I told them what happened. They just nodded, their faces grim. Nkele always takes what she's owed, my grandmother said. I haven't gone back to the forest since. But some nights, when the wind howls outside my window, I swear I hear her laugh. And I know she's still watching. Still waiting.